Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Illustration Department podcast. My name is Giuseppe Castellano. In this podcast, I talk to folks in illustration, graphic design, publishing, animation, and other creative fields about their work, the lessons they've learned, and the bumps and bruises they've experienced along the way. In this episode, my guest is Karina Granda, art director at Little Brown Books for Young Readers. Illustrators cold email art directors, but art directors don't usually respond. As Karina and I discuss, a non-response really isn't as bad as it sounds. Among other topics, Karina talks about how she looks for illustrators and what makes a portfolio stand out. She shares the downside to responding to an illustrator's cold email, and Karina reminds us that bookmaking is a team sport. I hope you enjoy our conversation. What quiet corner are you in?
I'm in a conference room at my office. That's the furthest one, and I'm deep into the room.
All right. So when somebody walks in because they've booked that conference room,
no, it's booked. I'm fully booked.
Oh, you booked it?
I did book it. Fridays are really, really quiet at the office because it's like we're really only coming into the office 3 days a week, and nobody picks Friday. I'm here with like 4 other people. So nobody picked the 20-person conference room except me.
I'm the weirdo that would pick Friday for that reason. I love Fridays.
I love Friday. It's really quiet. You have the printer to yourself. You have all the resources to yourself.
Yeah.
You can go out after work easily if you want to.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm hearing like a little like thing, and it might be your hair is hitting the microphone.
Oh, okay, cool. Good to know.
Got it?
I will tuck it in.
Yep.
All right. How's that?
Yeah, that's better.
Great.
Perfect. Man, you sound great. You're in. Right.
I did listen to a few episodes. It felt very like armchair expert-y, like, which I mean, like, I know you've been doing this for like a long time, but like that was my point of reference at that moment. And I was like, okay, I get it. I get what we're doing here. And they were fun. It's actually, I feel like now I have a whole backlog that I can listen to because it is like the type of listening I like to do. I can't believe I haven't listened to more of it.
Okay. Yeah. I can't believe it either. So I need to work on my discoverability game. I guess it's not reaching you. The algorithm, I blame the algorithm.
Yeah. I'm sometimes bad about connecting. It's me. I don't like commit to a ton of, if you go on my Instagram, when's the last time I updated? Like, it's like sometimes I get in my own world.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a lot you have a lot of responsibility. So I think it's forgiven. That's forgiven.
Thank
You're fine. I usually do a lot of research for my guests, but this time I'm doing something a little different, especially for you, since we kind of know each other. I'm coming in totally cold or hot, I guess, depending on how you see it. 0 notes. We're just off the cuff today.
Yeah, let's do it. I like it. Yeah.
So I was trying to use my brain instead of the Googles on when we met. You started at Simon & Schuster a year before I left, so maybe 2010?
That is correct. Wow.
Nailed it. All right.
I'm not good at years like that, so I'm very impressed.
All right. So I'll take 200, Alex. This imprint is where Karina first got her start in publishing. And I'm going to say, what is Aladdin?
Yeah. So I was actually split. I was between Aladdin and Pulse at the time.
I'm taking the points.
Yeah, you can take it. I'll give it to you because I don't think I could have answered that question if it wasn't literally me. But yeah, I was split between Aladdin and Pulse at the time.
Aladdin and Pulse.
Yeah.
So was that mostly middle grade?
Well,
YA,
Pulse
maybe?
was all YA.
Okay.
And then Aladdin was mostly middle grade. Mm-hmm. But we did do, some picture books. And I feel like it was kind of like a really like neat place to start. I didn't really have a choice. I think that if you were getting into the job market at all, but like, especially in publishing in 2010, you didn't really have a choice in the matter. No. So I kind of just fell into it, but I feel like it was great. I learned a lot because it was a really big range of books that I was assisting in or working on at the time.
I don't think Steve Scott was there. I think he might have left, and Debbie Svetsios took his place. Is that who your boss was?
No, my boss was Russell Gordon.
Russell.
So, yeah, I was like, why am I saying last name first here? It's like it had a comma, Gordon, comma Russell.
Gordon.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Russell. So I was under Karen Paprocki for Aladdin.
Karen, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then Russell Gordon for Pulse.
Gotcha.
And I kind of split my time between them. And actually, Steve Scott made an appearance later on again. Yeah. So he was not there when I started, but he did start doing a lot of freelancing for us kind of at the end there. And when I left SNS, he's the one that finished up a couple of my projects. So it was funny then to see them out in the world under his vision. We did have that crossover.
I forgot where your cubicle was. Was it sort of in the middle, across from the butcher blocks?
Yeah, I was on the opposite side, like more towards the hallway. But yes, there was a lot of activity at the butcher block. I know, you know. Oh, yeah. But yeah. I used to like sometimes like stand on my chair and I could see you directly if somebody was asking a question. It was a fun place to work.
It was. It really was. And we would all fart around the butcher block. So for folks listening, trying to visualize this, so Simon & Schuster, 4th floor, the design department, we all had offices along one wall. There were cubicles in the middle of the room. And then between the two were these like literal butcher blocks with flat files underneath where we'd all congregate. We'd look at art there. We'd eat lunch there. We'd play games there. It was a great group. I was there for 12 years. And I got to say, so you started 2010. I left a year later to go to Penguin. And it was sad. I mean, of course I didn't regret the move, but it was sad because it was like my home. You know?
Yeah, I do feel like Simon & Schuster has a very like defined personality. I feel like people are very outgoing. They're very fun.
Yeah.
And it is funny because even to this day, working at Hachette, I'm like, I'm so loud. Like I'm around the office and I never felt that way at SNS because everyone was so loud,
oh, God.
you know?
Yeah.
And now I feel very, that concept of people are just like walking around, potentially with shoes or not. Like it was a very comfortable environment, even though there was a lot of good work being done. It was very comfortable. It was for being very corporate, very not corporate, at least in our little corner of the world.
Yeah.
That comes with its own set of challenges sometimes. I don't regret the move. I love where I'm at, but I do feel like some of those tendencies from when I was there are still in me.
Yeah, I was at Penguin then after that for about 7 years, and I loved every minute of it. Don't get me wrong. Loved every minute of it. But this first few months, I did feel a little regret. I was like, I think I made a bad decision here. I think can I go back to SNS? It was just a little bit more corporate.
And SNS famously has some people that did go back. They were just like, "This is my home. Why did I leave?"
Yes, that is. There are some. I know who you're talking about, and we don't need to out them. But they're like, "Fuck this. I'm going back." Yeah. Obviously, we have a lot of illustrators listening. You are an art director.
Yes.
The most obvious question, I would say, from their point of view is, how do you find illustrators?
Since I'm on the novels team, it's a little bit different than working on a picture book for me in the sense that we have like a whole totally different way that we can look at art. Our contracts are different. They're not editorial contracts the way that they are with a picture book.
I remember that.
So we have a little bit more freedom to move in that way. It's not as heavy on necessarily needing an agent, though we do work with a lot of agencies. So I think that I'm lucky enough to be able to find artists anywhere, and we have. I'm not going to lie, we definitely do work with a lot of agencies, and I think that part of that is just because sometimes we're working fast, and it's sometimes good and easy to have someone tell you this person's great, this person's available, this person's reliable, and that comes into play. But I've also had many like great opportunities where I see artwork out in the world. The New York City subway does a really great job of hiring artists for their MTA posters.
Yes, they do.
And it is funny because I have both found artists there, and I also have found work by artists I have worked for before there.
Yeah, same.
You can't deny the power of the internet. I think in terms of social media specifically, Instagram is still the most powerful tool for that for me. TikTok gets a little bit less in the 2D space in a way that isn't as useful to me.
Right.
And it also feels a little bit more crowded with things that I'm not looking for. Although maybe that's just because the algorithm knows that mostly what I'm looking for is illustrators and nail art, and that's all I get on Instagram. But they're really good at pushing me things. I also think that like social media has been a really great tool for artists bringing you to other artists, because I know that a lot of like artists work together, they workshop together, and suddenly like I'm looking at someone that I've worked with or someone that I like, and you start getting pushed people that follow them. So I think creating like your sort of like network of artists online brings visibility to me too.
Yeah.
I'm always looking.
I know you're always looking. It was like a full-time job. I felt like when I was an art director, even when I was at home, I was thinking about illustrators. If I would look at Twitter when Twitter functioned, I was looking at illustrators. It's an ongoing thing. Even when you're not at the moment needing an illustrator for a project, you're always looking. You're always sort of keeping your eye out, organizing it in whichever way you want to organize it. Different art directors worked it differently. Some people had like really organized flat files or hanging folders like yours truly, with like breakdowns of what kind of art the postcard or the mailer was. And I'd have an organized file system, but then I'd also have like bookmarks, of course, on my web browser, and then I'd have postcards pinned up to my wall, and there were all these other places, and all these illustrators I was following on social media. So you had all of these resources. The agent thing for me was a convenience factor.
Totally.
Especially
totally agree
when
with
I
you.
was short on time. Then I'd reach out to an agent and say, this is what we're looking for. What do you got?
Agreed. And you know what? Even then it's 50-50 who we end up with. At the end of, we look at it and you bring it to all the other people that need to look at it. Like, even once I go through an agency, it doesn't even necessarily mean that that's who we end up with for the project.
Sure.
But I totally agree that whether you're agented or not has no bearing on how I'm looking at your portfolio. It just sometimes makes it a little easier for it to get in my hands when I'm short on time.
Right. Karina, it sounds like you're whittling wood. Is that your hair hitting your mic?
Oh, it might be. Let's try again. I really should have brought a hair tie to the office today. I'm sorry. Right. This is like the thing I did not foresee.
I will. I'll add that to my podcast guest directions. Be sure to put your hair back.
Yes, I know that now.
Yeah, if it's a dude, I'll say be sure to shave that side of your face before you.
It might be worth putting it anyway. I mean, my husband has long hair. He'd probably have to pull it back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just hold it with your hand for the next 40 minutes.
That's what I'm going to do.
No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. We're just acknowledging it for the listener. I hear it, guys. It's okay. It's a little scrapey scrape. This is an NPR. We're not in a studio. Everybody relax. I'm just kidding. No one's bothered by that. Instagram is like always the number one answer when I ask art directors or agents, hey, how do you find illustrators? First thing they say is Instagram. But I want you to repeat what you just said. It doesn't matter if an illustrator has an agent.
It really does not matter if an illustrator has an agent to me. I find that like sometimes it even matters more to the illustrators, because sometimes agents can be a guiding hand on your end in terms of like contracts or setting expectations, or like sometimes they could just be your advocate when projects are a little bit more challenging. Mm-hmm. But we're going to work with who we want to work with no matter what.
The art department at SNS, if memory serves, and definitely when we were at Penguin, the art department was in charge of contracts. And there were different kinds of contracts. Like there were royalty-based, more editorial contracts that were much more in-depth, obviously. And there's a lot going on in that, especially for picture books. But when it was like a one-off, a single piece of art for a novel or a middle grade book, or then it was like a 1-page document contract.
Yes.
I remember that from Simon & Schuster.
And that is still true at Simon & Schuster, and it is true here, too, for us. In fact, we actually, as an art department, don't handle any royalty-based contract at all. If there is a royalty-based contract, it goes through the editorial team, even if it's an art contract.
That's funny.
Which is great, because I don't want to get into that.
We're going to go ahead and disagree there, because at Penguin, we were in charge of all of those. The editorial team, at one point, made the suggestion that they should take that over, and we were like, nope, it's us.
So what did you like about it? I am curious.
Well, we worked with the illustrator, so we were, from the very beginning, working with the illustrator. That starts with the contract.
Right.
It was weird that like someone else would be taking care of that, and then we would come in once the contract was – so that the contract – part of the contract had a lot to do with like scheduling, which the designers had to set. Mm-hmm. And also the negotiation. Like it was the beginning of the relationship, so why not start it there and not 3 steps or 4 steps in?
Okay, well, I think that maybe we just handle it a little bit differently in terms of like how that goes down. And I guess I do think that most royalty contracts that I've been part of generally are with an artist that's agented. I don't think I've been in possibly any royalty contracts that are with an unagented artist. So maybe that also had to do with like the relationship not being so bothered with it, because it's like, you know, your people are going to talk to my people. We're going to figure this out. Like, nice. And I think that generally what we've done is that I have been in situations where it's a picture book contract. So it's an editorial contract here, but like, I'll still start the conversation, you know, like, are you interested? Are you available? What are the dates? And what's the general advance?
Right.
And then when it gets into the nitty gritty of like the percentages and the formats and all that type of stuff, then the editor and the agent start to handle it on their end. That sort of more global agreement that's for all art about, you know, dates and scheduling and all that sort of thing. Like, I do think that we're still able to do.
Yeah. Do you know off the top of your head how many people work in your contracts department?
I wish I did. It seems like too few.
Yeah. You think?
I think it's too few.
It is too few. Whatever the number is, it needs to be quadrupled.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 100%. Seems to be a universal problem.
What is up with that?
I don't know. I remember once being at a panel and it was, I think it was at the US Book Show or something like that. And they did a contracts group. Yeah. Nearly everyone across publishers was like, and we aim to have these things turned around in a week. And I was like, I've never seen it. And I know some of you people, I've never seen it. And I know that they're very busy, but it is funny that there seems to be a gap even between like the amount of volume that those teams like even think they're handling because they're so busy, and the amount of volume that we need them to be handling.
I remember there being one person in the contracts department that dealt with our royalty-based contracts. There might be more now. This was many years ago, but I doubt it. And I know at Penguin there was one person who dealt with all of the contracts that are coming out of the children's division at freaking Penguin.
That's insane. I don't even think that that's possible. Like, it's just not possible.
When I left Penguin, there were 2, I think maybe 3, but definitely 2.
Wow.
2.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a huge group. I mean, the Penguin group is much bigger than our group, so I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, I was in charge, just our group alone, I was in charge of 8 designers. I was 9. So just the design team for us was 9 people, and each of us had, you know, well, altogether we worked on about 200 plus books a year. Just us.
Yeah. That's not
I can't
not
even
fair.
Imagine. It's not fair. And that's the thing. We're not criticizing that group. We're
not at all.
Commiserating.
Yeah. No, I'd have no criticism of them altogether. I actually think that even the answer they were giving, I was feeling like either someone made you give that answer or, you know, you're just so overwhelmed that like you can't even see the scope of it.
Yeah. And I've heard this from many illustrators. I've experienced it myself. the lack of communication from the editorial team out to their creators, illustrators, authors, makes the problem worse, right? So you're waiting. You think you're going to get this contract any moment now, but you don't. And so weeks go by, and the initial enthusiasm of, oh, gee, I'm working on a book with somebody, this is really exciting, starts waning. And then what was once excitement starts becoming sort of bitterness, because you're just waiting for so long for this contract. And the editorial staff, the editor, whoever is making this offer to you, doesn't communicate like, hey, I want to be very crystal clear here. Your contract is held up by the contracts department because they are so swamped. It will take some time, but I'm going to remain in contact with you. Just so you know, we're still excited. It's not you. It's not our waning interest in the project. It's just that the contracts department is just so blocked up that it's going to not take a month. When I told you it was going to take a month, it's actually going to take 5 months or 3 months.
Yeah, right. And I do think that, like, I have seen this problem play out. And I do think that as an art department, we're just very, very attuned to our types of schedules. And and I think that it's sort of a twofold problem, because I hear you, like, sometimes like how it feels and what's actually happening behind the scenes is not communicated. And I do think that some departments are eternal optimists about deadlines, it's like they're not even lying to you. They're not even trying to not tell you. I think that they're just hoping for whatever the standard best is, even though it doesn't happen most of the time. And I feel that way because I feel like sometimes I'm on the opposite end, even within the art process, where I'm like, guys, we're not going to make it, whatever the date is, whether it's, some sort of sales conference or some sort of printer deadline. I think that we have like a unique capability of having worked on so many projects and seeing what it takes and seeing what the feedback process can be like and all that type of stuff, to know that, like, I know that 3 weeks or 6 weeks, depending on the project, seems like a long time, but it really isn't a long time when you get to everybody's so busy, or somebody wants to think about their feedback a little bit longer, or whatever it is that's holding up the process. And I find that the art department is uniquely good at being aware of that. And I have a theory that it's because we're at the end of the process. These books get signed up a year, 2 years, 3 years, sometimes more from when they're going to actually publish. That it's kind of like hard to think about time in that big of a way. Like, since we're near the end of the process, like, I think that like what 2 months versus a day versus a week feels like is very real to us. Yeah. And I can see that personality probably just extends into the contracts too. It's like, for your illustrator, it's so important, and a week sounds like you're waiting forever. And then sometimes when the timeline of a project is 2 or 3 years, depending on what position you're in, a week or 3 months can start to feel the same.
Yep. Well observed.
But there's no ill will. I feel like for illustrators listening to this, like, I really do think it's just a mistake.
Yeah, which is funny because it's publishing, right? Literally the backbone of the industry is communication. So you'd think that people who work in this industry would be good communicators.
Yeah, and I think that they try to be. I do think that sometimes the nature is that, like, there's so many departments that depend on each other, and then, one thing moves in the wrong way outside of you, and suddenly the whole thing changes.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, you're right. Communicating. One thing that I try to do is just, I feel like every other day, I just look at my projects. Like, I almost have like my own mini production meeting. I don't know if people know what a production meeting is, but like, I literally just run through every single one of my projects, and I'm like, is there something I need to follow up on? And sometimes, a lot of times the answer is no. But I do think that every once in a while, I even surprise myself when I do that, where I'm like, oh, wait, this person hasn't answered this question, you know?
Sure.
And I find that like part of the nature of this job is there's so many projects with so many different timelines happening at the same time that having my own mini production meeting outside of the bigger team one every 2 weeks really helps.
Yeah. Staying on top of your business is basically what you're doing.
Or sending an email that just says, I have not forgotten about you, extends goodwill a lot, even if you can't do anything about it. Like, even if whatever the situation is, you can't do anything about. Sometimes I'll shoot an email and just say, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm just waiting for an answer on a couple of things. And it does make people feel a little bit more peaceful, I think.
It's shocking how many ills that email would cure in all of publishing. I haven't forgotten about you. Sit tight.
Maybe the issue is that we're thinking like us and we're not thinking like an illustrator, right? Because it's like we get so many emails every day,
right?
Things that are real things that are spam, things that are, things that are not really my problem.
Right.
And like, it takes time to parse it out. So I think that maybe working in-house, there's a little bit of like, I don't want to crowd your inbox. And then you get into that mentality and you forget that, well, for somebody that's sitting there waiting for your email specifically, maybe they'd prefer a little more communication.
Seriously. This podcast is produced by the Illustration Department, a global leader in online education for illustrators. Visit illustrationdept.com for offerings like mentorships and portfolio reviews, testimonials, our alumni showcase, our best-selling Substack, and more. That's illustrationdept.com. And now, back to our conversation. What are you looking for specifically? I know it's project-based, but just the bones of an illustration. Like, what exactly attracts you to an illustrator?
I spend a good 75% of my time these days thinking about covers.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm looking for compositions that work as a cover. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that it necessarily needs to be like a person or an object or anything like that. But thinking about like if you're walking through the bookstore or even if you saw a poster on the street or saw someone holding it on the subway, like what's one central image that someone could grab onto that's really evocative.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for things that are like simple but interesting at the same time. Mm-hmm. Overly complex doesn't work for me most of the time. Mm-hmm. But I do think that it needs to have something that it's trying to say.
For illustrators who are listening going like, I want to do covers. This sounds cool, but I don't know a lick about graphic design.
You don't need to be a graphic designer.
Of course you don't.
Yes. But I do think that a good way to think about creating art for a cover is creating those spaces where those things would go, right? Because it's not a painting and It's not the interior spread of a picture book. There does need to be space for all these things to coexist at the same time. Yeah. So like you're not going to typeset the title necessarily. You're not going to put the author name. But I do think, especially if you're going into the young adult space, thinking about that, like, well, there is going to be a title here and there is going to be an author name here and there might be a New York Times bestseller line here and there might be a tagline here. And, that's a lot that's going to go into a 5.5 by 8.25 inch space. Mm-hmm. And thinking where your image fits in all that is important. And not just thinking like, what is a 5.5 by 8.25 image from me, but like what is an image I can do that's going to be evocative and then also allow for all those things to exist around it.
Right. A way for artists to sort of help them visualize what you just explained is to look at other artists who have been doing covers. For example, like Brandon, or is it Brendan Dorman? Is it Brandon or Brandon?
I think it's Brandon.
Brandon?
I think so.
Yeah, let's look it up. We have the internet
we
at
do.
our fingertips.
I think it's Brandon, though.
It is Brandon.
Yeah,
Brandon Dorman. Just look at his portfolio or any cover artist portfolio or Instagram, and you'll see what they're doing to allow room for type. And it isn't just leave a big empty space. You also have to think about like how the title fits with the illustration. It isn't just one and the other. They have to work together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, some of that like interaction will eventually happen later. I mean, I do
Sure.
think that one of the things that we do as art directors is kind of, help you move the core aspects of your art around to fit with it. But, we can't be coming from nothing.
Yeah. You're going back and forth with the illustrator to help like solidify what the cover's going to end up looking like.
Yeah, it's truly a collaborative process.
Yeah.
Like, art is, it's a very important, huge part of the cover, but it's always going to be in conjunction with design. I mean, there's not very many covers out there that don't exist without the design.
Of course.
So, yeah.
You've done portfolio reviews.
I have.
What would you say is one common mistake that you see illustrators make with their portfolios? What is the most common thing you say to them to work on?
I think that it's like defining like what you want to do. And I think that sometimes you get portfolios that are either scattered in terms of style or in terms of types of spaces that they want to work in. Mm-hmm. There are illustrators that work in multiple spaces. I think that there is room for that, but I think that there's definitely something to be said for knowing what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. One thing that clues me into that is when you break it down yourself. For example, if you have a picture book aspect of your portfolio, and then also a middle grade or a covers aspect of your portfolio, I would separate them out. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to work in books, create art that would work in a book. Yeah. I get portfolios where I'm like, this is a really cool, I don't know, like sketch of your friend, or right. something like that. And it's beautiful and there's nothing wrong with it. But ultimately, we work in an industry that's very interesting because it's art and it is art, but it's a commercial industry, and we're creating a defined product that is a book.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so swept up in it's beautiful or it's interesting or it's so cool that sometimes the portfolios lose sight of that, like you're creating art for a product. And I think that the more that you can realize that your portfolio needs to reflect the type of art that's going to work for that's important. So if you're interested in working in picture books or in graphic novels, like making sure that like your art is sequential, making sure that you have characters that repeat in different situations, with different numbers of characters, with different expressions, with different scenes, because then you're showing like, okay, well, this is what a picture book is, right? It's sequential art, or this is what a graphic novel is. It's paneled sequential art. If you want to work in covers, creating art that does all the things that we just talked about, where it's it works isolated as a central image without anything else, without interior art, just on its own. I look at it, it's compelling, and it's making space for title and text and all those other things that a cover wants to be. So basically make the art that you're aspiring to make, not just art that you're aspiring to make because you're relaxing, having fun on the couch. And there's nothing wrong with that. You should continue to do that, but not necessarily does a portfolio make,
Yeah, for sure. When you're looking at websites, what do you notice most often with how illustrators are putting together their portfolios online?
I think it's
good and bad.
I really love when people like separate tabs for when they know what type of work they're doing. Mm-hmm. First of all, it makes it easier for me to parse out, but it also makes it easier for other people to parse out too. And I think that like one thing that sometimes folks miss is that I'm the art director and I'm the kind of the first line of picking out things that I think would work, that I think are cool, that I think are viable for this project. And I look at a lot of art and I work with a lot of artists. So I hope I have an ability to parse.
Been 15 years.
Yeah, it's
Karina.
Been a while.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I hope I have an ability to parse through like what I think is working and a confidence that I'm going to get you to take those things that are working for what I need you to do with it. But a thing that does happen is that I can create this beautiful tear sheet for you where I'm like, look at these 3 pieces of art. Let's focus on these 3 pieces of art, right? And
from the same artist or 3 different artists?
From the same artist, right? Mm-hmm. And then someone else goes on your website because I can't stop them from doing that. And they see a bunch of things that don't make sense. And they're like, well, we don't know what we're going to get from them, and I've had this conversation before, even though I have all the confidence that I can do that, I think that there's a safety in knowing that what you're going to give me. So like, here's my YA work, or here's my middle grade work, or here's my sequential work, or here's my art style 1 versus art style 2, I think is huge. It makes it easier for me to sell you as the person that I want to work with.
Which leads to that question. Once you find, let's say, 1 or 2 or 3 artists or more, I would imagine, you then have to get it through the editorial team. They have to agree that this is the right artist for the project. Is that how you guys work mostly?
Yeah. So I think that there's really I would say 4 stages of people that need to approve this, unfortunately.
I was trying to minimize it, but yeah, go ahead.
But generally, I'm a person that tends to cast a little bit of wide net. So I'll pick, I would say anywhere between 4 to 8 people that I think are viable. And then I'll share it with the editor. And at that point, I really do want to pare it down to 3 or 4 people. And then it goes to our jacket meeting where the publisher and sales weigh in. On a good day, they're like, we like all these people. On a different day, they might say, well, I actually really didn't like this person. Or they'll say, like, this is actually not the marketing position we want. Let's go back to the drawing board. Yep. Let's say, hopefully at the end of that, we end up with a handful of people. And I know that different houses work differently. We're really big on author care here. So generally we'll flash it by the author too. So it's me, the editor, the jacket committee, and the author. And then we'll write to you.
Good Lord.
I've seen it go both ways. I think that sometimes it's overly cautious and it doesn't allow for a little bit of risk taking because you're sort of picking up everybody's cautions along the way. But it also sometimes stops you from getting to a sticky point where it's like, well, actually, you have a final cover and sales hated that art style. And they're going to make you do it all the way from the beginning anyway.
I've had that experience.
Yeah. SNS is a very different place to work with, or at least it was at the time. I have not worked there in 10 years, so I don't know what it's like there now. But they worked slightly differently where you would get pretty far into a process before going into a larger team approval. And I'm just so torn. I feel like I've seen it go well and badly both ways. I don't think there's a perfect system.
I've heard at SNS these days that they have cover meetings before they even get started. So they meet to talk about what they want to do on the cover. And then the designer goes off with all of this information from various sources, various folks on the team.
Oh, so not just the editor, other people too?
It's a bigger group. I think it's called a pre-covers meeting.
Yeah, we do that. We have a pre-jacket meeting, but it doesn't. But it's still just the design team.
Okay.
And I do find it's really helpful because it just gets the creative director. It kind of gets the teams together. Sometimes other people have good ideas, and you're limited to designers, so everyone's kind of coming at it from the same vision. But it's not a team that includes, let's say, marketing or anything like that.
I mean, there's nothing like a committee to get really creative and experimental. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But that's why I do feel like sometimes I like to, when people are prepping their portfolios, caution them that it's work that is in some ways passionate, but it's also very much a job, So I think that knowing that is helpful. And there are ways to break the rules. There's moments of brilliance where it all just comes together. But I do think that it's a lot of books every year, and there's a portion of those projects that are meeting, the guidelines of what we're doing.
Sure. Have you ever had a discussion with somebody, an editor or whoever, about an illustrator, and you were so convinced that this was the right illustrator for the project that you got upset if anyone challenged it and thought maybe we should look for somewhere? Did you ever say to them, I bet my job on it?
I bet my job on it. I don't think I've ever bet my job. You're braver than me.
I've said it a couple times.
Maybe I'll start saying it. But I do think that I've made big pushes for certain artists. I think that actually at the stage that I get the most sometimes conflict is more like at the concept stage, where like you have 3 distinct sketches and everyone wants to go with like the safe choice.
Sure.
And then it's just uninspiring, you know? Yeah. And I find that really like, I find that the parts I get most frustrated, and I guess it happens most at the concept stage, but you're right that it does happen at artist selection sometimes too, where somebody's like, well, it's risky. Sometimes I'm like, well, like, why not do it then? You know, because I feel like so many books look the same, right?
Yeah.
And we've all been there once you've done this long enough that there's that moment. I mean, I remember when I first started working at Pulse, YA looked so different than it does now. Yeah. It was like the sad girl laying in the grass from an aerial perspective, and every cover looked like that. And all the fantasy books were like beautiful girl looking at you from the side with, you know, either like dust or powder or whatever, like going across their face. And then like suddenly you get, you know, Eleanor and Park comes out, and, you know, so like, and suddenly everyone wants to do it. And they're like, well, why didn't we think of this? And having been behind the scenes, it's like, that is not the first person that pushed to do something illustrated and different and with a different tone on a cover. It's just the first person that allowed it.
Right.
And suddenly you get these moments where somebody does something risky and it works. And everyone's like, well, why didn't we consider this artist? Or why didn't we whatever? And honestly, if you go in the backlog, sometimes we did, you know? Yeah. And it's just a matter of like when everybody is willing to take the risk at the same time. And I think that I've had more moments where I'm frustrated with picking the safe choice as opposed to the risky choice.
Yeah. How many emails do you get a week, ballpark, from illustrators?
A lot. Probably, I mean...
More or less.
I'm going to say that I get like at least a handful a day. So I'm going to say probably between 30 and 50.
30 and 50 emails from illustrators a day or a week?
A week.
30 or 50 a week.
Did we say a week? I'm sorry.
No, then I broke it down to a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 30 to 50 a week.
Probably.
You don't get a chance to respond to every single one of them.
No, I don't. And actually, you know what? I feel like at first I used to respond, and then it became untenable to respond.
It is untenable.
And I started to feel that I felt it was more fair just to not respond to anybody. and for a couple of reasons. It felt more fair because I cannot respond to everybody.
No, I didn't.
Right. And then so fairness was the first reason why I did this. But then the second reason that sort of I feel like I've developed as I've gotten more into this is that sometimes that response like springs a lot of hope, you know?
Yes.
And I think that even if I love your art, the odds that me loving your art plus the right project going along, plus everyone agreeing to it, plus everything that I know needs to happen for that art to actually get on a cover, starting with like, I may not even have the book right now or in 3 years. Mm-hmm. If I respond, it almost makes it seem like something could happen in the near future in a way that I don't want to set an expectation on.
Fair.
That doesn't mean that I don't look at them. And if there's something that I like, I absolutely bookmark it.
Yeah.
But I found that as I responded, suddenly those illustrators would start responding to me more, you know, like it's like I responded, like saying, thank you for sending your portfolio. And then suddenly like 2 weeks later, they're like, well, has anything come up? And I don't like want to set that tone.
Right.
I know that very experienced illustrators or illustrators that have done this a lot, or maybe just a certain personality is not going to have that expectation. But some people do. And it makes me feel really bad when I'm like, oh no, this isn't really going to work the way you think it's going to work.
Yeah. Oh gosh. There was one time, I'm trying to keep this short. I'm doing a Cliff's Notes editing in my head. I once used Twitter to do sort of quick reviews of individual pieces. So illustrators would tweet at me a piece, and then I would tweet back at them my quick review.
Oh boy.
No, this is when Twitter was cool. So it was fine. It was great. And lots of people participated. And so I, anytime I had a minute, maybe I was at an airport waiting for the plane or something, I just would do that. So I reviewed someone's piece on Twitter, and it was a pretty good review. It was like, yeah, this is really, really well done, really pretty. Try maybe fixing this or that. And this is back when Twitter was, I don't know, 100 and something characters. So it was really quick, like a couple sentences. Anyway, long story short, a few months go by, I'm at a conference, and that person is there.
Oh, wow.
Which is really, it's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. All right. So then I give her a full review. We sit down, we look at her book, and there's the piece. And so we have more time to take a deeper dive into the piece. And so I kind of recap what I said on Twitter and add a few more things, and it's fine. So I thought. That day at lunch, we're all sitting there. I'm sitting there with the conference volunteers. This illustrator comes up to me, angry, and says, basically, I thought you liked it. And I'm like sitting there like mid eating, like, wait, what? You said you liked it, that piece. Yeah, well, now you said you don't like it. What's changed? And she was not happy.
Oh, no.
To the point where the volunteers had to escort her out of the room.
Oh, wait, really? Wow.
Yep.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of a million reviews that I gave.
Yeah, no, these things don't generally happen.
No, they don't.
But they do happen.
They do happen. There are definitely expectations. And I get it, man. It is so emotional. I was talking to an illustrator last week who had a portfolio in a showcase at a recent conference. The organization shall not be named because they don't deserve the free publicity, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. The volunteers are amazing. The organization itself stinks.
Yeah.
Her book was in this showcase, and she observed people looking at it and broke down and crying because it's such an emotional moment. Like, wow, people are looking at my work.
Right.
So it can be emotional, man. You email an art director, you have a lot. There's a lot sort of hanging on that email. Right? I mean, it could be a potential job, and you sit there and wait, and you don't know if they like it or not because they're not responding. So the reality is, like you said, there's a good chance you do like their work, but just don't take silence as a no.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, that's totally true. I think that like my lack of response is not a reflection about how I feel about the work. And you know what? There are artists that like I have wanted to work with, and like it just hasn't panned out yet. The right book hasn't come along. The right book with everyone's approval hasn't come along, and you don't know who that person's going to be. Yeah. It's not even like, oh, I like your work. It's like, I really like your work. I have proposed to you several times, and it just doesn't work out for some reason. And you know what? One day it does. I do feel like every once in a while I've had the joy of sending an email that where I'm like, I've been wanting to work with you for so long, and finally the right project is here.
Yeah.
Keep sending them. Definitely don't keep sending them. Just don't take any emotion from not hearing from me.
Do you get postcards? I know you're only in the office
Sometimes.
3 days a week.
A lot less than I used to, but I do.
Do you like them?
Yeah, I do like them. I mean, I think that like sometimes for the postcards, some are more successful than others, I think, in terms of like what you're picking as the central image. But it does remind me that certain folks are around, or, maybe like, I'm getting into the office, like getting my coffee, and like I have a second to look up your website. If you want to break up my morning by me finding something in my inbox, I'll take it.
Yeah. All right. So people are sending you postcards. They're emailing you. Do you delete an email when someone writes, "Hi, Karen"?
No.
Okay. Do you delete an email if it's 18 paragraphs and at the bottom is the link to their website?
I go to their website and I don't read the email.
Of course not. Let's say there's War and Peace in the email, and then you go to their website right away. You like their work. Do you go back to the email and then read it, or do you just jump over to their bio and find out who they are?
I don't really read a lot of email.
That's the title of the podcast episode. I don't read a lot. It says book art director.
I actually read a ton, but I don't read a lot of emails. I mean, like, because I think maybe this is very, and I do think that it comes from working primarily on novels and not on picture books, right? Is that like, I'm very much still in like, I open the work and there's the work. It is useful sometimes, depending on the type of book you're working on, if you're really trying to pair the text with a certain type of artist.
Absolutely.
And I'm probably missing out by not like having that a little bit more fleshed out. But I do think that a lot of art that I'm looking at, I'm like, well, is the art going to work or is it not going to work?
Yeah.
And it really becomes that simple for me,
Exactly.
even if that's... And yeah, maybe then, yes, if I'm looking for something really specific, I'll start to read the bios. But yes, I guess at that point I am on their website. I'm not on their email anymore.
Exactly.
I don't think a lengthy email helps me really because I think that I'm in a position where the book is coming to me and then I'm pairing it with an artist. I'm not generally in the position where like I can push for an artist just on its own. Right. So it's really when the bio and all that matters, it's because of a pairing, not just because you randomly sent me an email, if that makes sense.
I hear you.
And we do have an Airtable now where I do think that we're like, when we log them in, we're keeping track of a little bit more information of people that would be good pairings should certain books come up.
The only Airtable I prefer is one where you're playing hockey. I mean,
that is definitely my preferred Airtable. I agree with you. I will give that to you. And I love an arcade and I love an air hockey table. So
well, all right. So then the other question then is, it's falling right out of my head as I'm.
We're talking about emails.
Yeah.
Do we respond to emails?
No.
Do the bio matter?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I tell illustrators like make sure your bio says something about you.
That's true.
It's
I would agree
so
with that.
important. It is important. And have a nice headshot, a photo of you or something, just so you can see the human behind the art. Have a nice portfolio, keep it organized, and you're good to go. And then folks like Karina will hire you. For reals. Here's the interesting thing about this episode. So I didn't do any research, right? I don't have notes. I'm not staring at anything except for my screen and my mic. And of course, this is going long. Of course it is. It always works that way. It always does. It's just so funny. When I do a lot of research, those are shorter episodes, it seems like.
Well, we're learning about each other, you know.
Yeah,
I feel like we're not limiting it to questions that, you know.
I didn't even ask you, like, so you went to NYU and then you chose publishing. Tell me about that. Like, okay.
Actually, you know, I don't know that like I would ever describe it as I chose publishing. I always feel like publishing chose me a little bit.
I chose a job and it just happened to be in publishing. And like you said before, I didn't have the choice. I got, you know, Hani Yammer was my boss. She hired me. And I didn't know what the frick Simon Spotlight was or Little Simon.
Yes.
And I ended up doing those books and fell in love with them. And that was it. Done.
Yeah. And I feel like it's a similar like story for me where I do think that a lot has changed since that moment. Because I mean, I got to be honest, like when I was doing all this, like it was 2010. I was at NYU. It was the recession. I desperately wanted a job and to stay in New York. Like that is what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was applying for like a variety of things. And I was like, okay, well, like I need to just do like a bunch of internships to get my foot in the door. And I was kind of like pretty game for anything. And then it was like, oh wait, I really like this.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you from New York?
No, I'm from Miami.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I moved to New York to go to NYU, and like the last thing I wanted to do was leave, and it was a really challenging time to get a job.
I bet you want to go back to Miami for a couple of weeks, right? Right about now.
I was just in Miami for the holidays, so I think I got my fill. It's a little cold there right now.
It's much better in New York.
Yes, definitely, it's much better in New York. But I feel like it's like a little too cold to do. You know, it's not like you're going to go to the beach or something like that right now. My parents have been texting me. They've literally been getting days that are like 50 degrees regularly this past year.
It's a cold winter.
Yeah, all that cold that's up here, scale it down, but it's happening down there too.
Yeah.
And they actually told me, because we got a really beautiful stay there in December, and they were like, you're really lucky you left when you did, because like 2 days later it was 50 degrees.
I used to see, I don't really like winter. I never really did. And now as a homeowner and we live out in the woods, I'm just every day I wake up and I'm just talking to my house, like, just hold on, babe.
Wait, so where are you living now?
An hour southwest of Philly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And it's like we're on like kind of where the Delaware, Maryland, and Pennsylvania meet.
Okay.
Literally, I could walk to the Delaware line from my house. Anyway, I'm just like patting my house on the wall, like, on the back, like, just hang on for another week, babe. Like, do not freeze on me. I'm checking all the pipes. I'm walking outside. I'm doing things like I never thought I'd be doing living in New York for 20 years,
I do feel like if I owned a house in the winter, I wouldn't even know where to start.
I'm terrified.
I don't think I.
Yeah, it's like everyone's like, home ownership is so great. And I'm like, I am traumatized every single day. Every time I hear like a little, like, I hear this, I'm like, there's a leak. There's a pipe leak. Where is it coming from? No. It's the air conditioning. Like, I'm freaking out every single day. I think my house is going to explode at any given minute.
That's so funny. No, I mean, I feel like I definitely like love like the comfort of like a landlord, and I'm like, it's broken. And like, honestly, I feel very, very blessed in New York. I mean, I know, I feel like the joke is that like people in New York always move because every apartment sucks, and then you find the one apartment that you like, and then you never move. And I feel like that's where I'm at. I'm like, I'm never gonna move. I just live here now.
We weren't going to. And then both Sarah and I were remote. COVID happened. Our kids got huge, and we had to. And plus, like, we wanted to be closer to family and hang with the fam a little more than we did for 20 years. So, yeah. What's the joke? It's like there's three kinds of New Yorkers: people who are born there, people who go there and never leave, and then people who go there and leave after a couple of years.
Yeah, I think I'm in the middle. I think I'm the middle category. I don't think I'm ever going to leave.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if you watched it was on Netflix, the like Fran Lebowitz.
Oh,
and there's this, it's called I think it's called Pretend You're a City or something like that.
Okay.
It's very funny. I want to look it up now.
But
there's this Pretend You're a City. It was like with Martin. Pretend It's a City is what it's called. Martin Scorsese, like.
Oh yeah, I didn't see it. I know what you're talking about.
It's really funny.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I don't know if it's funny to people that don't have an intimate relationship with New York, but if you've lived here, it really resonates. Okay. And there was this moment where she's like, and everyone just says like, move, there's other places, this, that, and the other. And she's like, where do you suggest I go? And I'm like, that's me. And every once in a while, my husband and I, we still joke about it. That's me. We're like, and where do you suggest I go?
Oh God, I know. We did that whole thing. We were like, we lived in, we were living in Brooklyn. The kids were getting bigger, and we were, home ownership in the tri-state area was unattainable, but we just kind of like pretended that it wasn't. And so we would go out to Bergen County, Essex County. We'd go up to, northern New Jersey. We'd go to Westchester. We'd look at all of these houses, and they were rundown shacks that were once pretty and get in. And then there was a instant bidding war, and we would get blown out of the water. And then we were just like, we'd drive home. We'd go into a town. We'd look at a town like Glen Ridge or I don't know, someplace Westwood or whatever in Jersey. And we'd drive home and go like, we could see ourselves living there. Sure. And then as we were like driving over the bridge into Brooklyn, and the kids are like, it's Brooklyn. And they're all like 3 years old. And we're like, no, we're not leaving. We're not leaving. This is our home. What the hell were we doing? We wasted a day. But so no, it's great where we live. I miss it. I miss New York, but I love it here. Well, I love it here more than I miss New York. So we're good.
That's great. I mean, that's what you want, right?
Hell yeah.
That's
totally
great. Yeah.
All right. So people don't care about our feelings about New York and stuff. They care about
they really
portfolios and
true.
Getting jobs. They don't. They really don't. Yeah. Sorry, listeners. Editing. I'll just edit all of that out.
No, just take it out. Yeah. No one cares.
Let's not take out your advice to illustrators, your word of wisdom, one bit of encouragement, whatever it is that you want to share with them directly. What would it be?
Oh my gosh. One word of wisdom. I think that, this is going to be so boring, is that I do think that like to remember that a lot of stuff is not personal, and that it really is, sometimes making art as an artist feels very individual, but bookmaking is a team sport. I think that thinking about it as being part of a team is really helpful. I really do think that remembering that what you want to make is books is the most important thing, and always seeing that with the goal in mind when you're building your portfolio, and also eventually when you're working with a publishing house, that like all this feedback and all this process that we're doing is for the end goal of that product. So I think that, coming in with sort of, thick skin and a sort of team player mentality is really helpful. So sort of, bringing your all, and also knowing that it's a collaborative process and the end product is going to be the result of many people.
To learn more about Karina, visit karinagranda.com. If you find value in this podcast, consider becoming a patron. In return, you can access bonus episodes, receive invitations to our Art Directors After Hours series, and get a 10% off discount code for all ID offerings. Become a patron by visiting patreon.com/illustrationdept. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.